Hello, all, and welcome to I Know What You Watched last week, episode 5.
I wasn't prepared for just how low your voice was suddenly going to be.
Going straight natural today.
Straight natural.
Not trying to get heard. Just this is my natural voice. Let's get used to it.
Well, I also repositioned the microphone, so hopefully you'll come out as clear as I do with my trained stage voice.
If I get excited, this could all change.
Let's dive right in.
What did we watch last week? Quite a diverse
I'm so
bunch of
excited
movies.
to share this and discuss some of these. So we watched Mortuary.
Also known as Embalmed.
Embalmed. Quick admission to make as well. I've been travelling a bit to see my family abroad, so...
Yeah, you abandoned me.
Yeah, so it feels like it's been a little more than a week since we watched Mortuary / Embalmed.
Yeah, I think it's over a week.
So my memory on that, some bits are really sticking out, just images, but I probably need a bit of...
It's actually well over a week because it's been more than a week since we watched one of the other movies.
Yeah, the one I'm going to come to now, which is Benedetta, and what a palate cleanser that was from...
Palate cleanser?
Everything else. Yeah, that might be the wrong term, but it was very refreshing. And last but not least,
Oh, God.
I made you watch The Princess Diaries.
So I'm still a bit stunned from watching The Princess Diaries, not really from the movie itself, just from the fact that
it's been added to your
I never
list
thought
of
I'd ever see it,
movies.
and I especially didn't think it was ever going to be covered on an episode of I Know What You Watched last week.
It's tough times when I'm travelling. You just have to add anything you've watched in there. But also, we did kind of say that you would give your opinion after having watched them when we did the DVD instant reaction reveal thing. So we'll have to see what you think about number 2, because I haven't made you watch that one yet.
So in order, least favourite to favourite.
Yeah, least favourite. We've established that. Yeah, so in third place for me would be Mortuary or Embalmed. In second place is The Princess Diaries.
Oh, it's been demoted.
And in first place was Benedetta.
Right, interesting. I'm going to say, for me...
There's a fly.
There's always a fly in the room
Every time we
when
talk
we've
about
recorded
Even.
these. And flies are but there's certainly a
recurring
theme of Even.
yeah. We use it in some of our promotional materials as well, the images of flies.
Yeah. So
interesting.
He's keeping an eye over things.
He wants to star in the movie.
Yeah, clearly.
He's answered our casting call.
He's got to die for that, unfortunately. Anyway, third place for me, come as no surprise, is Princess Diaries. Second place, Mortuary. And in first, Benedetta. So you want to start with Mortuary. What are your vague memories of this movie?
Okay, so I remember that there's a guy who works within a family business at a mortuary, but he's like a young guy as well. So was he still in education, right?
Yeah.
He was still going to some kind of high school or college or something.
And it's played by Bill Paxton,
who
by
was
the way.
Very, very fun to watch.
Yeah.
And he's just a bit mental, I guess. And was he like into taxidermy or something? Well, he definitely turns into some kind of murderer.
They definitely made him into... he was partly influenced by Norman Bates.
I was definitely seeing that.
Not that I've read that anywhere or anything, just that's what came to mind.
But a bit over the top.
Yeah, it was a nutty
Bates.
movie.
Yeah.
But
go on then, you enlighten us as to a bit more about what it is.
I wasn't too aware of the movie. But like most people, I love Bill Paxton in everything that he's ever been in. So to hear Bill Paxton starring in an 80s horror movie had to be seen, and he absolutely didn't disappoint, considering a lot of the dialogue that he had. He absolutely relished and just said it with gusto. And there's a particular bit where they're in a cemetery in the daytime and Bill Paxton approaches two of the characters, I forget who now, and as he leaves the conversation, he does this really funny like dance run all across the graveyard.
Oh yeah, that was brilliant.
And that is just classic Bill Paxton, do anything to entertain.
So funny.
That was the highlight of the movie, was when,
That was so
and
funny.
what at that point I said, right, here's Bill Paxton in this movie. This is really cool. And not knowing what to expect because this is an earlier movie of his, once he did that in that scene,
Yeah, he was young.
it all just
in the
came
movie.
together, like the whole thinking process of Bill Paxton's entire career and how he approaches acting and his performances. And even though
Total commitment.
and even though it's such a, it's a, let's face it, it's a bit of a silly horror movie, Mortuary, he did the silliest thing he could do and it still completely works. Like, he's caught the tone completely, and it's just another...
Well, he makes the tone.
Yeah,
really.
absolutely. It's just another, like, string to the bow of Bill Paxton for me, because, as I said, we've all seen the famous movies that he's in, and he's always stealing the show. And for this one, he's done it again. Just to see him young was really interesting,
And
in a really early role.
Do you know what I find interesting is that I was going to say, and then you pretty much have worded it differently, but pretty much cemented what I was going to say, which was that Bill Paxton is all of the things I do still remember about the film. He's in the image. He's the centre stage. So
Yeah.
when you just said, "Oh, I don't remember who the other two characters were in the cemetery," well, that just proves the point, doesn't it? He completely runs that film.
Yeah. This movie, if we talk a little bit without Bill Paxton for a second, because, it's hard not to, but this movie only cost $250,000, and it had quite nice locations. So he's like in a house with a pool by the beach, all this kind of thing. Seems like it might have been a bit less costly to rent princely real estate back in the early 80s, whenever this movie was.
You don't say.
There was a Bill Paxton. Now, again, if you're going to watch the movie, here's a spoiler. Bill Paxton's the killer. And I thought the makeup of the killer was pretty creepy. He just has a black robe on. He has a whitened face with darkened features around the eyes and things like this. Very simple. And it was only until halfway through the movie when they actually revealed him. He was looking through a back door at a female character, I believe.
Right.
And then it was all gone for me because you could clearly see that it was Bill Paxton. Whereas at the time, you were still kind of guessing. Though early on, I did say to you, I wonder if Bill Paxton is the killer or just a red herring at this point. And that was only about 12 minutes in or something. So
Yeah, because they do instantly show him as just completely offbeat.
yeah, absolutely.
Weird.
The only other thing that came to my mind again, lady actress came out beautiful wearing a nightgown. That's in these notes here. And it's been so long ago that I was probably going to elaborate on it. Probably more as such that it's been
But
quite...
Bill Paxton erased all memories.
Bill Paxton erased all memories almost.
Even
but
of attractive women.
I think what I was going to say
It's
was...
a miracle.
a beautiful lady in a nightgown or less has been quite a theme of I Know What You Watched Last Week, mostly because of the later Amityville movies.
Yeah, also just horror in general.
So I'm always noting scantily clad, beautiful actresses in things. And
Yeah, do you know
this
what, maybe I'll
had
take
one.
the ring off.
None as beautiful as you. So yeah, that's pretty much everything I've got to say about Mortuary. It's not a bad movie, it's not a great movie, but if you get a little buzzed, a few beers,
Yeah,
it could be enjoyable.
I was going to say that I think this so far has been the best week for me on I Know What You Watched Last Week in terms of all three of them being watchable, whereas normally we have at least one dud. So yeah, it was a good show.
Yeah, good show for Mortuary. Next up, instead of talking about your... No, you put Benedetta at number 1, didn't you?
Yeah.
So yeah, instead of talking about your number 2 after number 3, we'll go... So juvenile. We'll go to Benedetta.
So horror first, and then we'll wrap it up with your least favourite.
It's not really a horror movie, is it, Benedetta?
Okay.
It's like a historical... It covers a lot of genres, or at least influences of genres.
It's
certainly.
unique.
I apart from Team America World Police, in all the time that we've been together, I've never seen you quite react to a movie at the end like you have with Benedetta. And I watched it by myself when, again, you were away gallivanting in Sicily, I believe. And after watching it, you came back and I said to you, you have to see this movie. And we watched it pretty quickly. And I knew you'd, at least appreciate it on many levels. But yeah, as I said, I've never seen you quite react to a movie like it.
I just loved that it was so, like, every moment of it, there was something weird and I hadn't seen before. It was done in a certain way that it was constantly exciting for me. And
there's a lot going on
rare
in the
to find that
storyline.
nowadays.
Every character has a reason. Every character has
and it's
a
interesting
big
to try
part
and
to play.
keep up with that because they are very complex characters. Like they do flip and flop and change and go through sort of different variety of emotions. And I also, as you know, love history in any form I can get it. So I liked that as well because we don't actually watch that many sort of historical dramas or whatever you want to call them.
No, it's all subtitled as well in French mostly.
Which I think just added to it, of course.
Yeah.
It felt more like looking into that little pocket of life rather than had it been an Americanized one with well-known actors. And I just think everything about it to me was brilliant.
Talking of actors, everyone in this movie was spot on. Like you couldn't criticise, I don't think, even an ounce of anyone's performance. But particularly the two leads, the ladies that play Benedetta and Bartolomea. Considering that they had to do a lot of the movie naked, and in a weird way, I barely even noticed after a small while that when they were doing naked scenes and things because they were just so committed, and like you say, there was so much going on in terms of like story.
Welcome to European cinema.
Absolutely, well, not welcome. I've seen much European cinema, and it should be on the record that really, if push came to shove, Paul Verhoeven is probably my favourite director of all time. And he's certainly directed my favourite movie of all time, being the original RoboCop. And he's one of, if not maybe the only director whose movies I've enjoyed all of them, no matter what. And
he always does surprise, which I love about it.
Yeah, it's always still
There's no
pure
rules.
Paul Verhoeven.
There's no, I'm just going to make this for the mass audience.
Yeah.
It's just what he wants to do, and I love that about it.
And
it's not, a lot of it's not in very good taste, which I personally find just adds to all of it. I like that he hasn't tried to tone it down for any reason. I mean, there was a ridiculous bit in Benedetta as well, but it will never go out of my mind.
There should always be, bad taste should always be a part of art. And whether you want to call it bad taste with what Paul Verhoeven does or just completely over the top, he literally hits you over the head with a sledgehammer. And I think the bit you were talking about was when the lady squirts milk out of her bosom, right?
So random.
And that's not the only kind of, different scene.
But just in a casual setting, like there's just like a few people hanging around, she just gets her boob out and just squeeze out some milk.
There's also, before that comes, quite early in the movie, when Bartolomea joins the Covenant, and she's been shown around by Benedetta, and she asks essentially, where you go and take a poop, and then it has them doing their business, and there's fart noises going off. Nothing is left out of this movie.
No, well, I made you watch another European film once.
That was terrible, though.
But let me just finish my point that I grew up watching. And it just highlights, despite the fact that was not very entertaining, was there not also a lot of just casual, completely non-sexual nudity and bodily functions in that one?
There was... My overriding memory of this movie was just penis.
But not like
penis galore.
Hunk penis either. It's like
no, just regular
chunky
cock.
Middle-aged men, just every old person get your willy out and stuff. But my
quite
point
disturbing.
Is, I kind of like that I have that European sensibility to me that the body itself shouldn't be just a sexual object. So I love when they do that natural stuff. And actually in Maps to the Stars, that's what it's called, right?
Mm-hmm.
When, oh God, why have I forgotten her name? She's one of my favourite actresses. Julianne Moore. And she takes a dump in that movie as well. And I remember thinking, like, I love that scene and it will always stay in my memory. And I love actresses who can let go of any sort of vanity and just
There's a movie called
commit.
Spun about a bunch of, speedheads. and one of the themes of the movie is that they can't take a dump. And it just reminded me, and I'm thinking in my head it might have been Mina Savari. And if it wasn't Mina Savari, I know she's in the movie, but it's probably a dude. But why do I think about Mina Savari?
I'm not saying that I want every movie now to have a dumping scene. That's not my point.
When I brought up that scene, I wasn't intending for the conversation
to go that way.
Dropping a deuce to carry on for quite so long.
This has been a very...
But this is where Benedetta... This is the insanity of the movie. And can you see the
excitement?
So, camera cut out. And as I remember, so far, we've only really covered pooping in this movie. After that, though, there is much more. So, the next... We haven't even got into the most controversial part of this movie, which is...
Well, the
sex toy.
Love. Oh, God.
The sex toy.
But especially for the time, yeah. Okay, that even shocked me. And I'm not a religious person in any way.
No.
But yeah, so Benedetta brings, when she's a child brought to this convent, she brings her mother's crucifix with her made of wood. And it's clearly very emotionally important to her.
Mm-hmm.
And it gets taken away from her. Now, years later, she gets it back. And her lover, Bartolomea, without her knowing, takes this crucifix and carves the bottom half into a wooden dildo, still with the top of the crucifix as is, and
Virgin Mary.
And they use it quite passionately, and I was quite shocked, is all I can say, and I can only imagine how you would feel if you were actually religious. And
it takes a lot to shock nowadays.
Yeah, it really does.
And it would also maybe take a bit more for a filmmaker like Paul Verhoeven to shock still after all this time, to keep coming back to the movie and keep bringing these things that are just essentially making me wild-eyed.
I'd be really interested to know if he had any sort of idea behind what if he wanted to convey something with that, or if it was purely just, oh, that would be a fun idea. It would be really interesting to find out from him.
Yeah, I definitely have movies where where he has commentaries on the bonus, so we should listen to a few of them, certainly.
Yeah, be really interested.
As well as the lead, Charlotte Rampling, who plays the abbess in the movie, I think is fantastic.
Yeah, I've seen her in other things as well, but English-speaking roles. Yeah. But it didn't... Yeah, it was a bit of a readjustment when I very first saw her coming in speaking French. Obviously she's fluent and native, and I'm sure accent free, even though I didn't speak French myself. But yeah, it took just a second to adjust to that.
Because what had you seen her in previously?
I don't remember.
Was it
now.
Street Dance? You were saying, was that Charlotte Rampling or was that somebody else?
Could that have been?
We've watched
I think
two
it was
real
actually, and she plays like a woman who runs and owns some really prestigious ballet school in London.
Yeah, I could see that.
So yeah, I think that was
she was
what
great,
she was in.
And the actress who played her daughter was great. She had a really cool storyline as well.
Yeah, that was really interesting.
No
moment was wasted. That was the thing.
No,
there was no lull in the movie.
And this goes on for a while. This movie is over 2 hours long, but it never dragged at any point. It was always interesting.
I want to watch it again, by the way.
Absolutely, yeah.
Many details I feel like I want to rewatch because it was just constant bombardment of fun.
And again, like talking of just perfect casting, Lambert Wilson, who played Lenonce, the guy who comes to what town are they in? Not Perugia.
I don't remember what it was.
Anyway, the Italian town. Then he comes. He's the really religious guy, and he tells Benedetta that when she's washing his feet, that she has the touch of a whore and things like this. He was just like brilliant in his role. Just everyone was.
They all nailed it.
Everything was nailed. So away from the cast, you just have things like you got the plague angle, which is fantastic, and then obviously it's religious. I'm just going to say obviously I love religion in movies. Always interesting.
Yeah, you've got religion, history. You've got all the costume aspects.
How about Benedetta's visions of Jesus Christ? Did you notice how it seemed to be done in a more hokey way?
Yeah.
Like it was almost like it wasn't taken seriously.
Well, I don't think you're supposed to necessarily believe in Benedetta. I think you are also supposed to see that even if she believes it, and I think It's interesting because, again, going back to that crucifix dildo, the only other time that I've been, the most shocked I've ever been in film, I think, was from my favourite horror, The Exorcist. And obviously we know Reagan uses a similar thing when she's possessed by the demon. And again, that's why I thought it would be interesting to hear from Paul Verhoeven if he just thought it would be a fun thing to do, or if he's supposed to be sort of, again, insinuating that far from being chosen by Jesus, she's actually almost an instrument for the opposite side. And in such a way that she's not even necessarily aware of it.
What did you think, though, just straight on, of her visions of Jesus coming to rescue her from gangs by beheading people while riding a horse and things like this, and, demanding that she touch him?
It was not out of place.
No. And how about it started off as a regular Jesus and then
Regular
turned
Jesus?
into a kind of like a Frankenstein Jesus. When she dreams about this one, she tells him, "You are not Jesus." That was just a weird take when he turned up as this scarred, bald Jesus, kind of meme-looking.
Well, he was someone that she had already met in real life. Yeah, that's what I said. She is convinced that her visions and everything are true, but I think we're supposed to not be so sure. But then that's just my interpretation, and it could be something completely different.
As of the Heathen Movie Channel is obviously mostly focused on horror, and this isn't necessarily a horror movie, not even close, but it does have possession. And when the possession scenes came, when Benedetta had to, scream through the voice of Jesus, I believe it was, the sound mixing of the voice, the performance when it actually came in the movie was all just, for a movie that is so over the top, nothing felt out of place at any point.
No.
It all came together so well. So there is a definite horror element to this movie. But it's just, as you said early on, so much more.
I personally also would argue to the opposite for certain things with just general ratings, because I think a lot of historically based things, I am always quite horrified by, more so than jump scares and stuff. I think that should be classed as horror a lot of the time, with the way that people were treated and the persecutions and tortures of life back then.
Just something to add, when I've said that Paul Verhoeven is most likely my favourite director of all time, it doesn't make me biased. It's more time goes on, I always get a little bit more trepidatious about watching these directors who I've loved all my life.
You don't want to be disappointed.
I don't want to be disappointed. So we'd watch his previous movie, Elle, which was absolutely brilliant as well. So when coming to Benedetta, I really hope that this is top notch, and it just didn't let down in any way. And I thought it was, I'm just going to say it, like a masterpiece.
Yeah, I loved it.
A modern day masterpiece.
I loved it. It had so many of my favourite elements. So
I can't wait for his next one again now. My hair has just started to stand on end just talking about Benedetta, so that says everything. I think for the final title, The Princess Diaries, because this is your movie, we should swap places.
Oh, I didn't see this coming. Yeah. Oh, this is why you wanted to do it like this. All right.
Okay.
Back in the chair.
Yeah.
Alright, so once you start rattling around and you're comfortable, let's get on with my number 2 and your least favourite of the week.
Yeah. The Princess Diaries, which, by the way, I purchased in a double pack, as per requested.
Yeah, I'm more excited for number 2 than I was for the first one, and I was proven correctly last night that it was mostly a case of childhood memories and rose-tinted glasses. I didn't hate it, but it was a little bit boring.
It was one of the most inconsequential movies I've ever seen in my life. That's not really...
It's not inconsequential. An entire nation depends on her choice.
A made-up nation.
Yeah.
Which, what was it called again? That Genovia.
Yeah.
That was the laziest naming of a fake country I think I've ever heard in a movie.
Yeah, and they're famous for their pears.
So it's completely inconsequential. But yeah, I wasn't offended at any point. It was inoffensive.
Yeah.
Everyone acted well apart from one dude. But I'm gonna
okay.
I'm gonna let him off because he's not an actor. And I've got a couple of his albums.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's definitely a better musician than he is an actor.
Yeah, he's from the band Rooney. I think his name was... I don't know if he's Jason Schwartzman or his brother is Jason Schwartzman, who is an established actor.
As the off-camera person, let me just get up IMDb and double check.
Let me see if I left
Schwartzman.
Robert Schwartzman. So Jason Schwartzman is the guy who's actually an actor, and this guy's a musician.
Yeah,
he's definitely a musician. It was
you could tell from his performance as well.
It was one of the things through the movie where I had slumped into it. We were about 20 minutes in or whatever, and I was glazed over. But then all of a sudden I heard this music that I recognised, and I said, "Why the hell is Rooney being played in this movie?" So
then they didn't use him again to play the music, which I think is a shame.
That was one of my only thoughts of the movie. After that, it was Hector Elizondo, who plays a driver.
No, he's actually head of national security, and that's why early on he's like, "Oh, you want me to be a babysitter and a driver?" But the Queen is doing it to protect.
He also
safety, Anne Hathaway's
shines on Julie Andrews with some
makes
smooth dance moves.
Yeah, he is pretty smooth.
But his outfit, when he put on his sunglasses, he just reminded me of the great Joe Pantoliano from The Matrix. That's what he reminded me of.
He has got a very Matrixy style.
It was definitely Joe Pantoliano from The Matrix.
Yeah.
The whole get-up was exactly the same. And what was nice was this movie went on for so long, and it felt like it as well. But when Joe came on the screen, when Hector Elizondo came on the screen, masquerading as Joe from The Matrix, it made me think of The Matrix, which was a much more enjoyable experience.
But did you not like all the sort of like tropes of that time in movie history? It was very typical, wasn't it?
That's, I think, what maybe I was getting at by saying it was inoffensive. It was filmed well, shot well. San Francisco as the setting was pleasant. And what was nice about that also was every time I saw Anne Hathaway and Martha Meeks from Scream 3 together doing a scene with San Francisco as the background, it reminded me of The Room, which is an absolute all-time favourite. And maybe ask you the question, do you think in the Princess Diaries they used the real background on San Francisco or went the Room way and used a green screen to reflect the background of San Fran even though they were already there?
I think they did it the same way of just using the background that is already the background.
Big mistake.
Yeah.
Big mistake.
Big money-saving mistake.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think the same thing annoyed me on rewatch as annoyed me back in the day, which was...
Back in the day?
The best friend. I find the character...
Martha Meeks.
So annoying, and even though she's actually the person that I should agree with the most, because she's the one who is speaking her mind and bringing up issues that should be brought up, it's the way in which she does everything that just grates on me.
Yeah. Maybe I just give her a pass because she's in the Scream franchise, but I'm trying to think of what else stood out to me. Oh yeah, something that struck me as unrealistic is, even though Anne Hathaway's character is portrayed as the typical kind of dork and doesn't really give a fuss about her appearance and all this, when she's approached and told that she is royalty and she kind of rejects it, says, "I don't want to be a princess. I don't know any woman in my entire life, no matter what her beliefs and this, that and the other, would not go on and be full-time princess."
Yeah. Plus you'd think, because she's like, "Oh, I don't want to move away to another country and all of this," but I'm like, but your whole goal in life is to be invisible, so surely it can only be better going somewhere else. But the point is, I mean, she got sick from trying to say something in front of the class. She's just the kind of person who any kind of attention put on her terrifies her. So that's how they're trying to sell that she doesn't want to be a princess.
Something else I enjoyed about the movie was just out loud predicting to you things that I thought might happen along the way.
Almost all of which were wrong.
How were they wrong?
Well, before we
I got in the ballpark area.
I asked you what you thought the whole thing was going to be about. And
I didn't know what it was about. That's fair enough. I didn't know what it was about.
But there were loads of things. It was only
about,
towards the end that you finally started getting a couple of things right.
I got everything
No.
correct in the ballpark.
No.
Yeah.
So after watching that one as well, how excited are you for me to make you watch the second one?
Considering that just before it finished, I was going to pick up the remote and I was going to say to myself, God damn it, please do not let any more than 20 minutes be remaining of this movie. Then it ended, so that was okay. Now the second one is 2 minutes less in runtime, and you're telling me that it's better than the first one. So I guess
I don't think anybody else in the entire world will agree with me, just as nobody else in the entire world will agree with my opinion that Grease 2 is a more entertaining movie than Grease. But what can I say? Entertainment is entertainment, and I can't fake it.
I've got a whole thing about sequels and how normally the quality declines in the horror genre.
Yeah.
But with you, a lot of your silly favourite movies, you always prefer the more ridiculous, dumb sequel which has no stars in it whatsoever.
No, it's the same sort of reason as to why people love The Room. It's so clearly been just smashed together.
Bring up The Room and the Princess Diaries in the same sentence because The Room just destroys it on every level.
I'm talking about in general sequels when they have not been planned, which most of them have not been.
I love Tommy Wiseau.
It's just
Wizzy Wizzo.
Right. It's just the
Is
first.
that how you say it? How would you say
it? Tommy Wiseau.
Yeah, we love Tommy.
Anyway, as I was saying, it's the silliness of the second ones that it's so unplanned. It's often just basically storyless, and it's just lots of little scenes smushed together that someone thought would work, and yeah.
I suppose I'm kind of intrigued about the one scene that you did tell me about, which was a bunch of princesses from around the world being called up by Anne Hathaway for a sleepover, and they start going down slides and things.
Yeah.
Where is this slide? What kind of room or building?
Well, you saw at the end of...
Is it like Snakes and Ladders or something?
You saw at the end of the Princess Diaries, right? She's en route to Genovia. They arrive, she's on the plane as they look down at the castle.
How long is the flight from wherever she was to Genovia?
I have no idea, but it's supposedly between Spain and France.
Does Genovia have an international airport?
I have no idea, but...
Well, I think that's something... Well, I guess if you're Queen of Genovia, you'll get flown in.
Yeah, so the first movie ends with her getting to her new kingdom, and that's where, I guess, the second one picks off. So she's in her castle, or palace, or...
So she settled right into the role of
Well, I guess you'll have to wait
now.
and see. I'll keep some details, dangling for you to be so excited to watch the second movie.
For a Disney movie, for a Disney film,
yeah,
it's quite high praise for me just to say it was inoffensive to me.
Yeah.
And
especially it's like a chick flick to the 9th degree, really.
Yeah. And I also kept expecting more risque things to happen. I didn't realise that it was rated PG or whatever it's rated. I thought it was going to be a more 15 rated movie.
And also, do you know what about it is quite modern apart from the best friend character? I've just realised you said it was inconsequential. And I was thinking,
It's completely inconsequential.
Even though there is romance involved, she initially fancies the bad boy who then uses her.
Not much of a bad boy, is he?
Whilst her best friend's older brother likes her, but she doesn't even realise.
The Rooney guy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then at the end, I guess that gets smoothed over, even though she then jets off to Genovia. But I think they say that he's going to come and visit. So supposedly that's, we'll see in the second movie, I guess. But it's not about the romance in the movie. That's just a plot device. It's about just her and her decision, whether she wants to stay anonymous or whether she wants to go and rule a country. So in that way, it's very, modern and feminist.
If she doesn't go and rule the country, though, what happens?
it goes to some other family who we met throughout the film, and they're portrayed as, you know, a terrible choice. So the whole country would suffer.
Why are they a terrible choice?
Well, they're not nice people, Johnny.
I don't remember these people. I do remember that scene at the dinner table when two people just started acting like Anne Hathaway's character.
No, they're the good guys. It's the ones opposite who kept looking at them. The really like shrewish looking woman.
This movie was boring.
And her.
It was so boring.
And her overweight husband. But yeah. Well, I've told you, you know, there's a sleepover slide scene in the second one. So.
But I know you love it, so again, going back to it doesn't really bother me that much. You can have it on again.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah. In between bouts with Benedetta.
Yeah. Now that's a palate cleanser.
Mm-hmm.